In the 1940s, nearly half was meat and dairy. The belief that we must have cereal has been there since the beginning. Nobody has dared to question the non-essential grains. Whole grains are the sacred cow of nutrition, and it makes you wonder how they got there in the first place. The 1950s still had dairy and meat. By 1958, cereals were becoming a bit more obvious. In 1979, meat started drifting down the page, and bread and cereal started climbing up. 1992 gave us the food pyramid that many of us grew up with. It reflected the demonization of saturated fat products from meat and dairy. There was an explosion of cereal and grain products with a recommendation of 6 to 11 servings per day. That pyramid was heavily influenced by the American agricultural sector and the American Dietitians Association. Remember that year 1992. Something happened in 1988, and I will come back to that. Here's our current Australian guideline. It's similar around the world. Real meat and full-fat dairy are barely there. You almost need a search and rescue party to find them. The cereal and grain section is massive. Fake meat, fake dairy, fake oils and processed food are shotgunned in all over the place. Tofu, soy milk and low fat are in. All sorts of protein alternatives that I never heard of as a child have found their way here. Canned and processed product is now called healthy. We have a whole section saying it's okay to have junk food. #fail, real food has actually gone on holiday. The USA now cannot even bring itself to mention the word meat. The propaganda starts looking more and more vegetarian with each decade. Where has it all come from? Well, the food industry, the vegetarians, or both. Over the last 45 years, our cereal and grain consumption has gone up. Our protein intake has gone up due to nuts, peanuts and poultry, but our red meat intake has decreased significantly, as we've been advised. We've increased our intake of fruit and vegetables and decreased dairy consumption, as we've been advised. In the developing world, we have convinced them to increase cereal consumption and have little meat and virtually no dairy. Could it possibly be that the advice we've been given and following is a total health, economic and environmental disaster? That advice might have been well-intentioned, but is unfortunately just wrong. It made me look to see where our dietary guidelines have come from. Remember the 1992 food pyramid. The exclusion of meat as a necessary food was finally achieved within the American Dietetic Association in 1988. Would you be surprised to see that 8 of the 9 on that advisory group were vegetarian? The only one that was not vegetarian has been on the North American Board of Trustees for ILSI, which has strong associations with the processed food industry. Ellen G. White was one of the founding leaders, and her writings are seen as their gospel. Ellen G. White's values and those of the Seventh-day Adventist Church are not unreasonable at first glance. There are the temperance concepts of abstinence of tobacco and alcohol. They encourage exercise and involving community. Their nutrition values, however, have not quite turned out as planned. Because they did not come from science, they actually came from the visions of Ellen G. White. Ellen G. White had some strange ideas about meat, and particularly red meat, which has now had worldwide repercussions. Her writings describe that eating meat causes violence. The term meat gives you cancer stems from her visions. She started talking about cancer in 1864, and we are still hearing that message even though it's never been proven.